afternoon. Welcome to our channel. Let's end mental health stigma now. My name is Abisola Amina, and today's video I am very excited about what we're about to discuss. We are discussing children and mental health. This is so important, especially in the climate that we're living in with the pandemic, as well as all of the new health protocols, social distancing protocols, social life protocols, and these protocols are affecting children in a very direct way because now they've been asked to stay home, to be homeschooled by their parents and long distance with their teachers. They are interfacing mostly on screens with their friends. They are no longer meeting in social environments, social events. Children are social beings, and at that age, the school age, are a significant, pivotal age where they learn important social skills and which helps them in their development as human beings that could assimilate into society or be able to be productive members of society emotionally, mentally, etc. Now with being homeschooled and being taken away from your social activities or your social life, that can in turn have significant adverse effects on children and their social skills and how they interact with other children or with the adults in their lives. So because of those reasons and because of the sheer amount of stress that children are being placed under with all of the homework, I've been hearing friends of mine with children complain about the sheer amount of extra work that the children and pressure that they have to be placed under in order for them to be able to keep up with the curricula and the syllabus and can cause significant stress on the children right now. So for those reasons, we've asked Dr. Naomi Jabatis, who is a children and adolescent psychiatrist. She specializes in children and adolescent psychiatry. She also has a master's in mental health, clinical mental health, and we've asked her to please enlighten us and shed light on some of the signs, the warning signs, and the possible symptoms that a child who is going through mental health distress or emotional stress, what are those signs that we can look out for in order for us to be able to help children who are in such mental states. And to conclude, we've asked her to give us some very simple everyday steps that each one of us can take, teachers, parents, as well as loved ones, can take or can implement to help a child who is experiencing mental distress. So this is an amazing discussion and very straightforward. Everybody can learn something from this discussion. So we ask you to take a listen and try to gather as much as you can from the interview and see how much you could implement it and help the children in our lives that may be suffering silently and do not know how to help themselves. So take a listen, and we hope that you take some amazing takeaways with you from the interview. So Dr. Jabatis, can you please tell us 5 signs or symptoms parents and teachers should look for in a child who may be suffering from mental illness?
Okay, there are different forms of mental illness, but in general, what parents and teachers need to look for example, is a change or a drop, a decline in the child's school grades. You have a child who has been doing well at school and then all of a sudden the grades have fallen. So you need to find out what is the reason for that. Also, if a child has withdrawn, a child who usually is very sociable and then all of a sudden the child keeps to himself or herself, then these are warning signs. Also, some children manifest mental illness by being aggressive, usually more aggressive than they were in the past. Sometimes that can be a sign of depression. And also there are other signs, for example, a decrease in appetite, not sleeping well, insomnia, or some children also cut themselves. So these are some signs that we can look for.
Wow, because I've been through it, some of those I can relate to since my symptoms started in my early teens. So these are some amazing clear symptoms and signs that parents could look for. And it's so hard sometimes for parents to identify those things. So right now, while you're at home with your children, while you're doing the homeschooling, pay attention to the moods and pay attention to the changes that the doctor just mentioned above. To make sure that your children are safe and your children are mentally healthy. So, Dr. Jabatis, can you tell us 3 steps parents or teachers can take to help the children who are suffering from possible mental distress of any kind?
It is very important to be good listeners. It's very important to listen to the children. Because if they feel that they've been interrupted or they're not being heard, it can cause them to close up and clam down and not really share what is happening with them. Another thing that you can do is also you need to have a neutral expression no matter what the child says, because sometimes it may just disrupt the tone of the conversation if you act surprised or you act upset or something. So you need to try your best to keep your expression neutral while listening to your child. And the other thing is also never tell a child that he or she is lying. Even if you suspect it, that they're not telling the truth, you do your best not to. And if you're really convinced that the child is not telling the truth, it's better to investigate without the child suspecting that you know that he or she is not telling the truth. Until you prove that 100% that the child is not telling the truth, you should not express your disbelief or your doubt to that child.
Wow, these are really, really simple steps that every parent or loved one could actually do. Listening is essential, and all of those things, I wish my family knew those things when I was 13 and going through all of those things, because you know the stigma that's attached to mental health, and one of the main reasons we don't speak up, it's because of the judgment or the negative stereotypes or reactions that people have, especially for children. So these are amazing, and I think parents could go ahead and do so easily.
Another thing we need to understand that in a lot of situations, generally, mental illness is something that you cannot help. It's an illness. It's just like when you see a medical problem like diabetes or high blood pressure. Many times, like for example in depression, we get hormonal imbalances or disbalances in the different neurotransmitters that are in your brains, and that can cause symptoms of depression.